The video game industry has been facing some massive problems internally. A lot of studios are being shut down, tons of people are being laid off, and now Microsoft is adding to this list because they are closing Bethesda's Arkane Austin, Alpha Dog Games, and Tango Gameworks, and kills off one of its best new franchises in years in the process. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or through YouTube memberships. Now, I always say be very careful when you fall in love with the video game franchise and when you say that you are going to support a company no matter what they do, because unfortunately as gamers we are very often disappointed, and now we are being disappointed by Microsoft and their shutdown of several studios. It says a year of devastating cuts in the gaming industry is getting even worse. Microsoft is shuttering off multiple studios under ZeniMax Media, heavily affecting the Bethesda Softworks publishing wing of the Xbox first-party group. Arkane Austin, half of Arkane Studio based out of Austin, Texas in the US, is being closed, as is the Japanese developer Tango Gameworks and the Canadian studio Alpha Dog Games. So we are talking about a plethora of groups here that are unfortunately now being either folded into ZeniMax Online Studios or simply closed off, and we are talking about games like Hi-Fi Rush, last year's breakout game for Microsoft. I mean, they even came out and talked about how happy they were with it. 1 year ago, an Xbox executive said Hi-Fi Rush was a breakout hit for us and that Xbox couldn't be happier with the team at Tango Gameworks and what they delivered, and today Xbox shut down Tango Gameworks, and it's almost a year to the date, so they switched up pretty quickly. And then, of course, we have Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice 2 coming out this month, and Ninja Theory is actually being shut down, which is crazy to think about. And that also means that we're talking about franchises like Prey and The Evil Within, and of course, these may not be completely locked away, never to be seen again, but their teams are no longer together, and that means that Microsoft and the developers had no immediate plans and no games in the works. And with the closure of Tango Gameworks, Microsoft has no Japanese studios. There's still a few publishing deals in place, like with Kojima, for instance, but there's no first-party companies that are part of their list anymore, which is kind of crazy to think about. And Phil probably said, look at all of these little developers, we don't need them. But when they get shut down, they lose their identity and creativity, because then they become part of the bigger whole their IPs are being shoved into, when everything they probably made in what they became famous for because of their creative identity, and you're taking that away. I mean, that is not something that should be seen as positive in any way, shape, or form, because again, some of them are being folded into ZeniMax Online Studios, like Roundhouse Studios, but it's not like those developers are going to be working on their babies anymore, as far as we know, and basically everything is going to be left in the dust, and they're going to just be put on a different new project. But ultimately, it's probably the cheaper way to do it. Now, let's just hope that none of this cheapens the quality of future games, which we know it unfortunately probably will, but this is not being taken very positively by the gaming community. Many people are upset primarily over things like Hi-Fi Rush. Again, breakout game last year, super fantastic title. I was really hoping to see DLC or a sequel, and now that may not happen. Again, it could, but there's not going to be any news anytime soon. Damn, I loved Hi-Fi Rush, was my favorite game of 2023. Why the Hi-Fi Rush studio? That game is so freaking good. We have people saying things like, wait, they closed the Hi-Fi Rush studio? Ain't no way. Tango Gameworks is and was one of the best damn studios in the industry. I firmly believe if Microsoft just let them keep cooking, they'd have eventually put out a bona fide mega hit. I have to say, over the years, I've been very back and forth with Tango Gameworks. They have created some amazing things, but they've also created some flops in the past, and that is very important to point out. While I did really love The Evil Within, I was not a big fan of Tokyo Ghostwire, and I know many people were not happy with that either, and that was supposed to be a big AAA game for them that they were hoping was going to basically go the distance, and they were going to be able to create a new mega hit horror IP, and that just didn't happen. So I bet that they sunk a lot of time and a lot of money into that, and then they decided, you know, enough is enough. Now, of course, Microsoft really is not in the business of AA, no matter how much quality there is in them, but when you see something like Hi-Fi Rush that won so many awards last year and got so much praise, and Microsoft even admitted was a breakout hit, you'd think that they would at least keep that team around trying to work on DLC or a sequel or something like that. And this also has not given a lot of hope to other people who work at other studios, like Mike Dowling, who is the senior director of communications and franchise at Obsidian, made this Twitter/X post saying, why do I still do this? Clearly, you know, leaning into the fact that he is not happy with what is going on with Microsoft and the industry in general. And a lot of people are saying things like, don't give up passion. You've created some great games in the past, but get Obsidian out of Microsoft before the whole ship goes down in a year or two. Xbox, that is. I don't think that Xbox is going to go down. I think that, you know, Microsoft has so much money that they could continue to throw at Xbox, but I do think that Phil Spencer is not in a good place right now. I mean, over the past year and a half, Phil Spencer has faced a lot of scrutiny with a lot of the decisions that he's made, and I think after seeing this kind of picture that is now being painted of amidst industry layoffs, they are closing down all of these studios in more devastating cuts at Bethesda, people are not going to continue to blindly back him. And I do think that that is going to potentially lead to his, you know, leaving of Microsoft. I do think that he has done some good in his career at the company, don't get me wrong, but unfortunately, a lot of companies in the gaming industry right now are struggling internally, and I don't think that Phil Spencer is doing enough for Xbox at this point in time. And you also have to consider with this list, Arkane Austin is being shut down, and they were the ones who last year created the disaster known as Redfall, but Microsoft and Phil Spencer specifically had said that even though it was rushed out and it wasn't to the quality that they were hoping for, they weren't going to shut the studio down, they were going to give them another chance, and as far as we knew, they were actually working on DLC for that game and trying to patch it and make it a better product, but it looks like that is not the case now, given that, yeah, they're being closed down. And of course, going forward, it will be interesting to see what happens with things like the Elder Scrolls Online, because Roundhouse Studios is moving to become part of ZeniMax Online Studios, the team that works on the Elder Scrolls Online, and they're also reportedly developing a new IP, but it seems like a lot of the other developers at these other studios are now going to be let go. We don't have a lot of clarification, and I will definitely be keeping my eye on this situation, but right now the gaming industry is up in flames. Xbox and Microsoft and Bethesda are trending on social media, and so many people are voicing how unhappy they are with Phil Spencer and Xbox in general. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.